All right, you're listening to another podcast from I'dratherBeWriting.com. My name is Tom Johnson, and today I'm talking with Saravana Kumar, CEO of Document360. And we're going to be talking about generative AI, GenAI, and in the context of technical documentation, specifically looking at both the user side, how it benefits users, as well as the authoring side. And of course, we'll be bringing in Document 360 and really trying to get concrete about this. Saravana, we had a podcast a few years back, and now we're having another podcast, and you're still thriving as a company. In fact, you've grown a lot, and you've just expanded your software suite so much. Can you just introduce yourself a little bit for people? Maybe tell them a little bit about what you do at Document 360.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. First of all, thank you very much, John, for having me on the show. I've been reading about your stuff for a very long time. I'm just to give a brief about myself. My name is Saravana. I'm a founder of a company called Cowai.co, which is the umbrella company. Under the company, we got three different products. So, two of them are more on the Microsoft ecosystem, and that is how the company got started. And Document 360 is our third product. So we started Document 360 back in 2017, 18, and that just came out of a pure, I will say it's an accident. While writing documentation for our other two products, which are more on the enterprise space, which requires a lot of documentation, when you're dealing with the customers like Boeing and IKEA, it's a quite complex product and requires a lot of documentation. That is when I just kind of identified a gap in the market. So at one side, the market was dominated by typical customer support products like Zendesk, Freshdesk, ServiceNow. They have some kind of documentation module. And the other side, you have like a really complicated or a legacy systems or I won't say legacy, it's a bit complicated, like a component based content management systems or a headless CMS. And people go extreme length to have some documentation for your product. So that is when we saw something in the middle, and I started the company. Today, it's over 6 years now, and we've grown significantly with close to 1,500 customers worldwide. A lot of large companies and large public knowledge bases like Mid Journey, probably companies. Since we're going to talk about a lot about GenAI today, like Mid Journey, who are a number one player on the generative images space, their documentation is powered by us. A lot of use cases around it. Yeah, I think that's a quick background about the company and who I am. Yeah, thank you very much
Th-
for having me on the
yeah,
show.
yeah. It is cool that Midjourney's documentation uses Document 360. My first introduction to Gen AI was with Midjourney. I was in Florida visiting my brother-in-law and my sister. They're super techie, and they introduced me to this. They're like, Tom, you've got to try drawing with AI. And I'm like, what? Yeah. And ever since I started playing around with that, I was like hooked all weekend when I was visiting, and then just sort of got very into it. And this must be a very interesting time to be developing software tools during this like major technical innovation or change with all the Gen AI stuff. And you've certainly like had to pivot and keep, well, not necessarily pivot, but innovate and continue to sort of keep pace with this rapid landscape that keeps changing. Um, Before we kind of jump into Gen AI questions, tell me kind of where you stand. Are you an enthusiast? Are you kind of skeptical? Are you somewhat in the middle? Like, what's your general attitude towards Gen AI?
I'll say I'll put myself more on the enthusiast category because if you look at it, when this Gen AI stuff started coming, like somewhere around 12, 15 months ago, the whole industry shifted. And today, everybody that just add AI to whatever they are doing, every website you go, it's all says AI powered. And then sometimes I feel like they're trying to put lipstick on top of it, probably the product itself is not really suitable for anything to do with the AI or Gen AI, but everybody claims like they are AI company, AI first company. But if you look at our case, it's one of those products, like I'm not telling just because I'm the founder of Document360. It's one of the products where it naturally fits into the transition of generative AI, because today only now every company realizes like, okay, for Gen AI to work properly, you need to sort out your underlying knowledge base and documentation, everything in order. And that is the shift. It happened immediately today. Like maybe the reason for our growth is also contributed to some of the elements of I think we saw two phases which helped us in the growth. One, even COVID helped us, because COVID is when all of the remote working and people not coming to office happened. People realized how important to have documentation, and then people didn't document things and they just jumping and finding a documentation product. That is the first wave, and the second wave is this whole AI stuff, and then everybody thinks, oh, now having a structured data and having something centralized is very important for any AI stuff to work on top of it. And that is why I'm super enthusiastic. Even though, since I mentioned I have three products, the top priority for us is Document 360. Now, over 60% of the company, close to 170 people, work in Document 360 today. And I spend nearly like 70% of my time on Document 360. I'm super excited about the landscape, the where we are in, and where it will go is all like a super exciting for us. And I keep seeing a lot of young startups coming in that space, but a lot of them I feel they are like a small features. It should be part of a product like us. They're trying to build a startup
Mm.
out of it. So that is all exciting. Like we are spinning up teams and then address those kind of new innovative ideas. We'll talk about more about it, like things like how do we improve screenshots, how, because screenshots is something what a technical writer does day in day out. Like how can we innovate using those new Gen AI
Mm.
capabilities to make that one task like 100x better and make life easy for technical writers. So I'm really, to answer your question, I'm really enthusiastic about the space and what's happening here.
I agree that like documentation does seem to be the sweet spot for so much Gen AI. I mean, you're in a position from an author's point of view, right? When you're writing docs, you're constantly having to learn, figure things out that are complicated, and AI can really help like unlock a lot of that mystery behind the content. But also from the user point of view, I mean, to get customized, tailored content can be really empowering. And you mentioned that people now are realizing that in order to have a good AI experience, to have good quality content coming out of the AI, you need to have a foundation where it's all together, coherent, consistent, managed. Yeah, I've seen that theme come up again and again. Um, let's start. And also, you mentioned how everybody now is putting AI powered on their tools, and yeah, this is definitely something that it's sort of losing its appeal, right? That whole adjective AI powered, if everything is AI powered. So let's jump into more of the details here. Let's start with search, because I know Document 360 has a pretty good search. Have you integrated Gen AI into the search experience? And can you talk a little bit about that?
No, absolutely. I think that is one critical feature, like where we can see it's naturally the Gen AI stuff fits into the product. So before, like before the whole the Gen AI shift, like our search was like something what you can comparable to today's Google or Bing search. People come and put some keywords, and then we list down like a bunch of articles and say, hey, these are the articles where we found something relevant. There was some level of intelligence in that search, like how Google works. Like it can understand your intent, and then it can give you, you don't need to really, it's not like a word based match. It was giving like more like a bunch of articles and say this is what it is, and then you leave it up to the user, right? You go figure out, read those articles and find answers, whatever you can interpret out of those seven articles we found your keyword. But today, if you go and do the search on Document 360, any site powered with Document 360, we call it as a eddy search. If you click that one, you can ask a question like, for example, there's a company called Gong, which is one of our customers, and they are into sales analytics side of things. And you can go and ask a question like, what is an impromptu call? Or, you can say, hey, I'm having trouble connecting my Zoom to Gong. How do I do it? So this time what happens is it just goes analyze all the articles and gives you precisely this is the answer you're looking for, and that will solve the problem. At the bottom we'll show you, like, these are seven references we used this previously what we would have listed, and say, hey, these are the seven articles we reference to derive this answer for you. And that gives you like a precise answer. And also now we have like a citation as well, like a that feature is now the when there is a context, you'll say, like, because a single sentence could have come from two different articles. That is the power of GenAI to stitch those two, say, two something from two articles, and I put together a sentence and we give a citation. This particular sentence came from article 1 and 2, and now you get a precise answer, and then you really like it just empowers the user much more. And on the from a customer side, you can imagine like how much there are two factors. One, it reduces your support ticket, because if you don't answer the question correctly, the immediate next step would have been the customer would have sent an email to support@xyz.com, and then the whole chain of conversations around that thing. You solved that problem. And second, the customer experience itself, because today the reality is nobody wants to write that email to that support. You want the answer now. Like, you want to find a solution. I'm stuck with the problem now. Give me an answer straight away, and that helps significantly. Like to give the precise answer what they want. And you can see why having a powerful knowledge base becomes so critical, because there's the search and AI capabilities are sitting on top of your data. The knowledge base, the quality of data what you have put together underneath your knowledge base is what powers that answer. So all of them stitch together nicely, and that is what we are able to give it to the customers now.
Mm. Yeah, I like that connection between the power of the search with the reduced support costs, right? If you can find the answer, then you don't necessarily take that next step to initiating a support outreach. I want to know a little bit more about the search part. Like, do you have your own? Like, is the logic all internal within Document360, or is it like making a call to an external API, like a ChatGPT API? Like, does the information go out somewhere else and come back, or does it all stay in Document360 servers and infrastructure?
Sure. I think the way it works, technically, the way it works at the moment is our backend is all our data is stored in MongoDB. MongoDB is our data provider. We use the cloud version of MongoDB, and it's scalable, and then everything comes in. And MongoDB got something called vector search. We use the vector search, which is a kind of our RAG engine. Like, that is what helps the RAG part of our system. And then we use OpenAI as our AI provider. So it all these three things stitch together. So we provide, because you need to, in the Gong example I gave you, you need to give the context of the whole document store of Gong should go into OpenAI, so that OpenAI can give you the answers based on that. So it's a combination of the embeddings that comes out of a vector search from MongoDB, and then we use the OpenAI to give the answers back. And we have some level of privacy boundaries, so that we protect the customer, because we are a multi-tenant solution, and we have a lot of security and privacy in place to seclude each customer data is handled in a private way. So that is at a very high, 1,000 foot high. How does things work underneath? In fact, like we are one of the top 5 SaaS companies for MongoDB vector search. And today, even as last week I spoke in their London conference, how does the architecture work? So there's quite a bit of investment gone behind the scene for us to achieve that search. What you see there, it's so seamless, but there's quite a bit of tech that gone behind the scene to achieve that. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So, did you have to like change any of your content structure when you feed it into the vector database? Like, for example, did you have to increase the amount of metadata, or add some other structure, or chunk things smaller? Like, did you have to optimize your documentation just to get better AI answers, or was it able to
No,
just
I think
kind of parse them?
definitely. I think I don't have the probably the knowledge to go deeper into exactly how it works, but at a very high level, like, there's a lot of optimization that goes into getting the right data. Because when you're doing the QA testing, today anybody can claim, like, okay, you throw a bunch of things to OpenAI and ask questions and you're going to get the answers back. But how clear and precise it
Mm.
is what makes the difference. And we do a lot of work around that area to make sure the answers are precise. Like, even there are a lot of QA challenges as well, because the problem today is we are moving from a systems that are used to be deterministic to what do you say, like a
Probabilistic. Yeah.
probabilistic now, right? Like before, if I call an API, you know exactly what the response is going to come back. But today, you call that same prompt, you hit it 4 times, you get different answers, right? So how do you tweak it? Those are some of the challenges we face. And then the data science team has worked significantly to optimize it, and then we continuously, to tweak the prompt and tweak the the chunking and where and then the embeddings and all those things. A bunch of things continuously goes behind the scene to get precisely what you want. Eventually, at I think some point, we're looking at having our own local LLMs, because it's two reasons. One, it could be cost as well, and also second reason could be we will have much more power in terms of fine tuning and optimizing,
Mm.
etc. But today we are good enough to, like, because if you go down that road, of course it's time consuming and you need to put a lot of investments into it. But today, let's make it work as a minimum viable solution, like it's working, and then fine tune it and we learn it. And then we have plans to go down that our own LLMs, and then even more privacy, and we can
Yeah.
protect it. Yeah.
That's cool. All right, now let's jump more into the support costs part, because this is probably where tech writers get excited if you can make a concrete argument about actually saving support costs because people are finding their answers and so on. How do you sort of go about measuring this? Does Document 360 give you any kind of tools to see that, oh, hey, this person they didn't ask a support question because they sort of got good search results? Or is there any like insights you can gain?
Absolutely, yeah. So we have analytics as part of the product, and analytics is something, we pay a lot of attention to everything. When we used to have only search, not all any of this AI capabilities. Even then, we had like a search analytics, because that is something, when people come do something on the search bar, and then there are maybe a lot of times people are dropping off because they're not able to find the solution what they need. And that comes show up in the search analytics very clearly. These are some of the questions where people didn't find answers. You can go, and then the technical writer, whoever owns that documentation, can have like a weekly cadence or a bi-weekly, take a look at it and say, hey, these are the gaps what we have in our documentation knowledge base, and you can fill it up. The same methodology we extended to now the AI search as well, because AI search, at the bottom when you do it, there's always a feedback loop. Did this question answer your did this answer helped you solve the question? Or like if you have any more comments, or so all those things gets back into the analytics. People can look at it and say, and also, if there is no answer, you can say, if I wanted to raise a support ticket, we call it like a ticket deflector. You can also measure that as well. Okay, how many times people didn't find an answer, then but they raised a support ticket immediately. So those things are all like a lot of measurements in place in terms of analytics, and you can take a look and you can make a informed decision. And also, you can look at which article is giving the best answers. There's so many things that we do on the analytics to because if you build a system, it's like driving a car, right? You might be driving a Ferrari, but if you don't have the dashboard right, and if you don't have the metrics right, you really don't know, like, where you're heading and what value you're getting out of it. So we invested a lot on the analytics side of things as well.
Well, hearing you describe the analytics makes me really jealous of that platform because and just that capability because I'm thinking I really need better like feedback loops for my documentation. I mean, most of my feedback loops comes through we have a bunch of partner engineers who work with the customers and so on, and they relay the feedback, but I'm always like, wanting to know a lot more detail. And it seems like providing that in documentation could really be beneficial to tech writers? Because then you would have the feedback about, oh, is this topic helpful? Is it inaccurate? What's going on? So yeah, awesome to hear that. Let's switch a little bit and look at the capabilities for tech writers, for people or authors. I guess not everybody could be a tech writer, just who is ever creating content on Document 360. There's so many AI capabilities provided through these tools. I've seen a lot of different sort of implementations and different tools. Tell me, what capabilities do you provide for tech writers in creating content?
Yeah, sure. I think when we look at the product, when it comes to AI capabilities, there are two sides. One, we discussed a lot about the end users who consume the content created by the tech writer. That is where the search and the reducing the support and all those things comes into place. And if you go inside Document 360, where the tech writers actually spend a lot of time creating content, there are a lot of natural fit that comes as part of the whole GenAI way. Because today it's all those productivity enhancement, like, I wanted to outline an article, I got an idea, I just wanted to, like, okay, can I give a prompt, can you just do an outline of how an article should look like? And then all those standard things, like, okay, change the tone of the voice and maybe change from active voice to passive voice, and then maybe make this paragraph slightly bigger, or maybe condense this article a little bit shorter. All those, we have, like, like some 20 or 30 different very little enhancements like this all comes into the editor. That is a straightforward productivity which you can take advantage of. On top of that, we have certain features which are very what we call it as like a workflow automation kind of things that helps technical writers. For example, when you written an article, okay, we help you productive in terms of writing that article. Once that article is done, there are a bunch of things you do as a manual task. For example, you may want to tag those articles correctly, because you might have like a tagging system in place. Okay, hey, this is an internal document. This is, the security related. This is something related to XYZ. And we have something called an automatic tag recommendation. So which will tell you, based on the content you've written, hey, these are the possible tags you can actually tag them on. And that is one
Hmm.
example. And the other thing is related articles, right? Okay, I returned this one. A lot of times, as a technical writer, you may wanted to say, hey, this article is actually related to these two, three articles. And then you go and say, like, okay, you put it manually, but today we can actually auto recommend saying, hey, this article is actually, you can both ways, you can bi-directional say, this is related to that article is related to vice versa. And you can do things like that. And SEO is another great example. Like, a lot of times, you know today, if you're a tech company or if you're a SaaS company, content marketing is big, and people undervalue how powerful your knowledge base is generating that content and acquiring customers. Because when you're writing knowledge in your knowledge base, you're writing the bottom of the funnel content. Because if you look at the funnel, the top is more educational content, and the bottom, you go, they're very close to becoming your customers. For example, in our case, we have an article which is performing very well. It's about how to write markdown. It's nothing to do with the product. How do you use Document 360 to write markdown content? That is one of the top hits. And imagine somebody landing on that page and reading about that content. The next curiosity will be, hey, what is this product? Even let's take a look at it. And you can see it right at the bottom. So the SEO becomes so important. So we have a feature, for example, click of a button, it will automatically say what is the best title you can have for this article, what is the best meta description you can have for this article. And you can also do it at scale as well. Like, we have customers, maybe they never looked at it in the past, and they have like 500 articles, and nobody really cared about putting those meta descriptions in title. You go and click a button and say, hey, can you go and fix it across my entire knowledge base? It just does it for you. And there's another interesting thing is glossary. I'm sure you would have come across a glossary. Maintenance is a really complicated thing, right? So if you are a product like Stripe, you need to explain what is CAC, customer acquisition cost, what is annual recurring revenue, ARR, MRR, MQL, PQL, SQL, all these terminologies, and a technical writer, they need to keep up and maintain the glossary. Today, we can actually say, did you detect any glossary in my article? Click a button and it'll tell you,
Hmm.
hey, these are the glossaries you can pick up. And you can also do it at scale again, like across the entire knowledge base. The entire glossary can be automatically maintained, and
Hmm.
it will give you suggestions. We don't really, the still the technical author need to go and say, okay, this is good, and then it goes public. But it helps a lot. So that is how, going back to your original question, I'm very enthusiastic because this is the product not putting lipstick on the top. It's actually can benefit from a lot of the AI capabilities what's out there.
Yeah, those are some great examples. Thanks for sharing them. And you mentioned like related articles. This the way you're describing it is that the AI integration will look at all the content within your help system and make recommendations. And I
Yeah.
think that sounds really powerful, from the existing tags to the glossary. You said that you can find all instances of certain terms across your help system, and that seems very powerful, because if you're just using like an AI tool as a standalone interface that's not connected to your help system, you're just sort of limited to that article you're working on, more or less. But if you can pull in and get a view of all of your other content in context, that would be very powerful. I really like the glossary one. I was just doing a glossary thing the other day, had like a book club. It wasn't really a technical documentation, but I had a book club. I was making some notes on a book we read, and I passed in the PDF, and I was like, get me all the, unique terms. And yeah, it was amazing how well it pulled them out. And I was like, this is awesome. Um, so, and I think the retrieval augmented generation, is like the foundation of all the usefulness that comes out of AI, right? If it's just like a general question on the web, it's not
Yeah.
nearly as useful as when you can expand it with your own content, and especially in a comprehensive way. You mentioned some style tweaks, and let's jump into this a little bit. Like you mentioned, changing the tone or active and passive voice. Um, what would you say if a tech writer says, "Hey, I've tried using AI to like write this paragraph. I passed in, the whole like reference, but what came out of it was kind of robotic. It was like voiceless. It sounded like Wikipedia." How do you manage to adjust the output so that it sounds more human?
Sure, I think that is where maybe people got a misconception, or like not using the system properly. Like the system is capable of outputting whatever you want, and it'll come to how good you're able to prompt, and how the quality of the prompt you can write. Okay, we as a platform, we take care of, like if you say like you want like a formal tone, then there's a lot of the tweaking that goes in how well we construct the prompting, and then we get the answers. And still, like you need to treat it more like a tool that help you to be productive, rather than the tool is going to solve 100% of your problem. You need to be aware of that, okay, it created, like without that I would have written everything myself, and it's like it would have taken like 2 hours for me to write that. But today, okay, it gives me something which will cut down my time to, like, okay, an hour worth, first hour, which is normally where people procrastinate, right? Okay, hey, what do I write, how do I start, where do I start, what do I things put in. That is the one, it's like going to gym, right? Actually doing the gym is not the hardest part. It's actually the first 5 to 10 minutes to, going there is actually the problem. That's exactly
Yeah.
how you should actually treat it. It helps me to get there. And don't expect it to, like same as gym example, it won't automatically build your muscle or something. You still need to do your work to get your muscle. It helps you, the initial thing, for you to kickstart and do things faster. And you need to wrap it up in a nice way. Hey, okay, it gives me things, I can tweak a bit, and I try different styles, and then okay, hey, okay, but I put my own thought process and correction, because otherwise every tech writer jobs will be redundant in the world, right? It's not
Mhm.
going to happen, because you still need to bring human in the loop. That's not going to go away. The human in the loop is where the success of the AI comes into picture. It's not the 100% automation, like self-driving cars, and even then you need some level of human in the loop, like That, and also I know there's a lot of tech writers are very scared, what's going to happen to my job, like is everything is going. I will say, like it's only going to make your job better. You can write better quality content now. You can spend time on, like covering all aspects of the knowledge base required. We may not have the bandwidth to do things in the past because it makes you like 5x or 10x better. So yeah, I think that is how I see it. Yeah.
I, I totally agree about the value of AI helping jumpstart this process. And it's so much easier if you have like something to look at than just a blank page. I was helping some engineers with code examples the other day, and I was initially trying to just get them to give me code examples for this API. And they kind of pushed back and complained about bandwidth. And then I tried another technique where I had AI kind of help with jump starting some code examples based on some test app code, but the AI kind of added some annotations about what it's doing. And yeah, it's been pretty successful. At least 50% of the engineers now have like given me back the code examples that I was asking for. And they kind of started with the AI version and added and tweaked it. And I looked at the version history. It was in a Google Doc, and they made a ton of changes. But somehow having that starting point was like the game changer. And it's that way with writing as well in so many other areas, right? The blank page, it's like it usually fills people with dread. And even if the AI version is mediocre, it at least lets you see what you a starting point, and then you take it from there. Now, one pitfall that I constantly come across is this hallucination aspect. Because if I'm writing a doc from scratch, let's come back to those code samples, and I don't know the package names, for example, I'm not just gonna like make something up and put it there. I might just leave it blank and put a question mark, right? But AI tools are really they're used to just like predicting what it could or should probably be and going with that. And as a result, the engineers look at it and maybe they just trust it, or they don't like, especially the package names. Maybe they just assume that they're right. Um, how do you how do you get past this whole hallucination problem? Do you see it as a problem, or is it just kind of like a minor editorial thing people need to do?
Yeah, I'll say that I will relate to the same answer like the previous one. You shouldn't see IA as a complete end result. It's only there for you to help you, assist you on the side. We do lot of things on our end to make sure the hallucination is not a problem, because sometimes for example, when you use the RAG and then the OpenAI stuff, we set explicit boundaries. Only when you don't give the boundaries and say hey, you can return any answer you want, that is where a lot of hallucination comes into picture. But we said, hey, this is our boundary in which we are operating, and give me answers within this context, not just going all over the place and recommending us random things. So we eliminate the hallucination to a large extent as a platform provider. At the same time, like when you're asking, if you ask like a very generic questions, and then like prompts are very open ended, there are chances of getting things which are not right. But that is where the role of a tech writer and the human in the loop comes into picture, and it's your responsibility to make sure it is relevant. And I would say it's more like a review process, right? Okay, there is a junior fellow returned the content, and then it came to you, and then you need to verify the authenticity of it and whether it makes sense. And then okay, then I will say that is how you see it. Okay, there's a part of the workflow. Yeah, is maybe one step below you, and then it part, and then it's your job responsibility to make sure it's correct, and then before it goes into production. Having said that, we have a very good workflow engine in Document 360, so you can actually have steps, and then maybe the final step, final reviews. Maybe there is a hallucination check. Is the answers correct? Are there like can they detect any hallucination? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And you mentioned earlier on in our conversation about providing references in some of the search results to the answers, and I think that's also a good check. I've actually, one thing I do to try to avoid hallucination is I go and link every time a code element is mentioned. I'll link it to the reference to make sure that it exists,
Yeah.
and it's also kind of a way for me to have a heads up in case the API changes. I'll see a broken link, and I'll be like, oh, let me investigate that. Did something change and I didn't hear about it? Um, Also, earlier we talked a little bit about Midjourney, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about maybe how some of the companies using Document 360 are using AI. Like, are there any good examples that we could check out and see, like, oh, this is what a proper AI generated search kind of looks
Yeah,
like, or
sure.
some.
I think, yeah, mid-journey case is very straightforward. Like they are, like the success story for us is helping a customer like Mid-Journey with a volume what they are serving. I think their monthly hit is in a very crazy numbers, like 30, 40 million hits per month
Wow.
kind of volume. So we are able to like provide that kind of infrastructure to serve them. It was a very interesting case, like how they became our customer. We didn't even know they became our customer. I think this, like maybe year and a half or something like that. We didn't even know that name Mid Journey, who they are. It's very early days of all those Gen AI stuff. And then, like, we have, like, every month we have, like, our cloud cost consolidation call. Like, we check every month, like our Azure cost is in line with our growth, or we are seeing any discrepancies, because it's very easy for things to happen, like people misconfiguring and stuff like that. So we noticed, like, nearly, like a 30% increase in our CDN cost that month, and that looks like a very unusual spike. And then we dig deeper and then figured out this one particular project is actually the one culprit. And then we initially thought it was some error, or we misconfigured it. And then we went down and then found this one particular company is docs.midjourney.com is actually using 30% of our CDN. And then we figured out and went there, and then only then realized, okay, it's a massive company, and that is where it's all happening. So there are at scale, that just provides us at what level of scale we can provide this. Good examples like Airtable is if you know Airtable, they are a similar kind of a story. Their documentation runs on Document 360. The AI stuff, I think if you want to see the public reference, I'll refer to Gong. If you go to help.gong.io, where they run their public knowledge base, and there is a Ask Eddie button. You can go and ask any questions what you want. Maybe you go find an article and pick up a random question you wanted to ask based on that article, and you go and do like a search. The example I gave you is, I'm having trouble connecting to Zoom. Can you help? Kind of question, and then you'll see how things work, and then how the answer comes in, how the references are shown, etc. And this actually, like last week, we released a feature. Now our search is conversational. Like before, we had like a one point in solution. Like you ask a question, it gives you a referenced answer. So today we go conversational. You can have further questions to the relevant to the previous
Mm,
question. It'll remember the context, and it can give you
oh,
like a. It's almost like chatting to a one-to-one support agent based on your knowledge base. It's so
hmm.
powerful now. Like you can actually, like almost chatting to a support agent to get your answers. So these are actually, you can test it out. Your audience can test it out themselves. Yeah.
I love that conversational element about search. I mean, that it's kind of just mind blowing when you're really trying to learn something and you can follow up your questions to clarify and get more detail. It's like, it's a different world. So um, I know things are changing so fast in the landscape. I mean, just this last week, my mind was blown yet again listening to like audio podcasts that are
Yeah.
generated from content. But what's on kind of the roadmap for Document 360? Is there any big new feature or other things you're working on, or is it
Yeah,
just
yeah, I
like,
think I'm really excited. There's a lot of things we're working on. Like, the way we am looking at it at the moment is, like, or general the AI, like what's going to happen in the next, in the future. Like, you are going to have a lot of AI agents to help do your job better, right? For me, as I'm a CEO, like, okay, in a day, I'm doing a lot of activities, and some of the activities can be done by an AI agent. Maybe simple things like an AI agent can look at my inbox and make sure it's tidy up, and then give me suggestions. These are the bunch of things you need to do. What a virtual assistant and executive assistant will do, some part of it AI agent can solve it in the future. In a similar way, we are looking at being a technical writer. That's our primary audience, right? Okay, how can we provide that kind of agents or productivity help to those people? And that's where I mentioned the beginning. Screenshot, taking screenshot is one activity you need to do continuously, do right. Okay, when you're taking a screenshot, just imagine the workflow. You need to use a third party tool. You open the app, you take the screenshot, and then do a small bit of editing there. Or you, some companies, you need to pass it on to some editorial or a design team to get them done the design, come back to you, and then you upload it to a platform where your knowledge base is, and then you insert that into your knowledge base. And if something changes in the screenshot, somebody added a new button, imagine the whole flow again, it starts
Mm.
again, right? So how can we bring some kind of a AI element to it, and it's automatically taken care of it, and we are working on it actually. These are some of the
Mm.
innovative ideas. How can we disrupt or help 10x value to the technical writers? And the other thing we are looking at is, if you look at lot of articles in your knowledge base, majority of them will be some kind of a how-to articles or a step-by-step guide. I want, how do you configure redirect rules? You go to settings, you click here, you click here, you enter this, and then you take screenshots of all these things, and you fill in the blanks with the text what you need to do. And we are looking at somebody just clicking on those things, and then it automatically captures all the screenshots, and automatically you prompt a little bit, this is what I'm trying to do, and it fills the gap, and then say, hey, this is your article, like a bang, 2 minutes, you got your article. And we are getting one step ahead. Like, okay, a lot of times the knowledge transfer happens from your engineering team, right? They come and give you some kind of a chat like this, or like a video conversation, and then they explain to you all these things. This is the future. You go and write the documentation. We're looking at how can we analyze that content, and then say automatically the base draft version of knowledge, the contents are automatically created out of those video conversation the PMs and tech writers and the engineering team have, and then it gets transformed into articles. So these are really real problems. We are not really trying to make something up. We can actually will give 100x productivity to that people who maintain that knowledge base. These are the things what's cooking.
I, wow, I'm glad to hear that because the whole AI agent workflows definitely seems like that would be the next big game changer. Even some of the prompts that I use have multiple steps and stages, and but any process we have, whether it's writing or editing, publishing, whatever, has a lot of little micro steps that you can break it down into. And if you can chain all those together and have like more of a workflow that AI can perform, that would be really interesting. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Now you mentioned as a CEO, your tasks are somewhat different from a technical writer. Obviously, you're managing a huge, thriving business. I'm just kind of curious. Do you find uh, Gen AI helpful in any of the roles as a CEO?
No, absolutely. Today I use it quite a lot. We are a more a Microsoft shop, and we use a lot of Microsoft tech, and the Microsoft Copilot is there now. It's one of my companion today. Like, it's everywhere in my Word document. And then I'll give you some concrete examples. Like, one of my job is on the hiring side. Like, we have a policy of pretty much every single hire we make in the company, I at least listen or watch the video interviews of people, and then give my feedback back to the hiring team. So today, all the things recorded, like, I can, I say listen to the full video recording anyway. And after that, on the side Copilot, I'll ask questions like, how I'll ask, like a mentor, is this person, you think, is it the right fit for this particular role, and this is the spec job description of this particular thing. And it will give you suggestions, hey, based on what this conversation, like, okay, hey, he or she does well in this area, didn't do well in this area. And then I'll even ask questions like, what kind of questions we should have asked this person. And like,
Oh,
you can see conversational, and that helps me quite a lot on like distilling that interview process. That is
wow.
one one solid thing. And then on a personal side, I'm learning a language. Like, I'm from India, but you probably know Hindi is one of the common language in India, but not everybody can speak Hindi. For example, I can't speak or listen to Hindi, so like I'm actually learning quite a bit. And there I'm using a proper, like my chat GPT in my mobile phone, and it's a proper multimodal thing. I set the full context in terms of, I can't read Hindi, I can only listen. Whatever you're typing, you need to give me answers, and even the Hindi word you need to type it in English, because I can't understand the Hindi transcript. And it give me 5 words a day, like, it tells me, and then it tells you, explain to me how do I pronounce it. So it's fascinating, like both on the personal side as well as on the business side. I just give two examples, but I use quite extensively, like the little things, like sometimes even simple, somebody send you a wedding invite or something, right? You need to say something very quick, but it looks like, two sentences, but you need to think, like but now I can ask that, okay, can you please give me a quick answer for this? Okay, I won't send it as it is, but at least it helps me to, make a tweak, and then send it. So I use it, definitely one of the game changers now. Yeah.
Wow, those are really interesting. The whole like hiring interview and analysis and the questions and the fit. That's unique. I'd never heard that, so that's cool. And also learning language. I have a daughter who's really looking to study Japanese, and I keep thinking, how can AI help you learn Japanese? She finds that she doesn't really speak it as much as she used to. She used to be a little more fluent, and so yeah, I'm excited to see the possibilities in so many different domains for this. Um, and also, I just wanted to say I'm excited about Document 360's sort of longevity. I've been in this space for a long time. I mean, I started this blog back in 2006, and over the last 20 years, I've seen a lot of companies come and go. A lot of people, especially new companies, they reach out to me. They're like, "Hey, we want to advertise." And I'm like, "Great." And then like year later, 2 years later, they're gone. And
Yeah.
but Document 360 has had like an upward trajectory. I was even reading that you were able to grow all this revenue without even having like investor funding. So it sounds like you guys are on a successful track, and I just wanted to applaud you for all that success. It's awesome to see a tool in the teccom space thrive and then be able to keep pace with all the different web technologies and AI technologies that are coming
Yeah,
out. So
sure. Yeah, thank you very much, John. As I'm really excited about it. Like maybe this is one of the areas probably where the innovation didn't happen at the pace required. Maybe like maybe the success of the document 360, way I'm looking at it is, we came from another world where we're very deep tech and we're solving some super critical problems, and then we identified this. Now we are adopting those engineering thought processes and methodologies, and say, what can we do for this space? It's been unattended for a very long time, like 20 years or so. Nobody really innovated in a big level, like some of the thought processes what we are talking about, like those the screen capture, optimization, and then all those things. And that is what we hope, like we'll be able to keep up. And the total addressable market is so huge. If you look at it, every single company, you need some kind of a knowledge base, one way or the other, whether it's a public knowledge base or an internal knowledge base or a API documentation. So given the scope of the landscape, we are super excited. I feel like it's all coming together nicely, like the space, and then the innovation that's happening in that space, and then we are there to at the right place, right time. That is how I see it. Yeah.
if people want to learn more, should they just go to document360.com, or is there any particular resource you would direct them to?
Now, I would recommend, if anybody like now got interested to learn more about Document 360, the best place is document360.com. If you want to reach out to me, it's not that hard. If you search my name, I'm all over the place. It's you can hit me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer any questions. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Saravana. This has been a great conversation, and I appreciate you coming on to my show and sharing your passion for this space and seeing all the innovation you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you very much, John, Tom, for having me on the call. Thank you.
That's all right. A lot of people,
I'm
because my last
confused.
name is Johnson, I get John a lot. So it's totally, totally good. So, all right. Thanks again. And I'm going to stop our recording here.